You have your technical founders, right, who have the technical acumen, but not necessarily the business acumen, and then you have vice versa. I think both people can fall into the trap of like, if you build it, they will come.
Welcome to Hired, the podcast. As always, I'm Travis Miller, and today I'm super excited to be joined by Kim Blomquist. Kim is the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications at mHUB, right here in Chicago. mHUB's a manufacturing incubator that specializes in providing the tools, resources, support to some of the most innovative manufacturing-based and hard tech startups here in the Midwest. So she sees a lot of different companies and a lot of different strategies about bringing on the best talent, specifically in manufacturing. Kim, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Travis. Really great to join you today.
Of course. And so hopefully I did a pretty good job of summarizing mHUB in as few words as possible, but can you dig into it a little bit more so people have a clear idea of what this group does and what they're helping other companies to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And the elevator pitch is a little complicated because we are a layered organization. I think at our core, you nailed it. We're a startup incubator and accelerator. And we have prototyping labs here in Chicago. We have programming classes, a mentor network, industry engagement to really commercialize technology that's physical product based. So, companies that will go on to manufacture products, hopefully right here in the United States. And we focus in three key areas. So climate and energy, healthcare, and then solutions for advanced and smart and sustainable manufacturing. I think because of all that activity that we're generating, there's some other areas where we dive in, particularly on the economic development front in efforts. We partner with a lot of community organizations to make sure that we're bringing in diverse talent and creating opportunity throughout the region for all founders. We have this really huge talent pool, so we work with a lot of industry that want to tap into that talent pool for either hiring or to contract for research and development projects. And then we have a venture fund. So we run an accelerator program and make direct investment into some of these companies.
So what's the life cycle of an organization involved with mHUB? When do they come to you? How long do they stay with you? What do they do while they're a part of the collective? And then where do they go from there?
Yeah, so I think we see two types of founders, right? Like first-time entrepreneurs that are maybe coming out of innovation centers at the university. And then once that goes away, they don't have the facilities that they need. And so that could be, they could be at various stages of their prototype. It could be an idea, or they could have a really basic prototype, but then they need help scaling and actually proving out the business model and the use case, right? Then we see the entrepreneurs that have been, professionals for 20, 30 years. They're really ingrained in their industry. They see a very specific need, and they know how to tackle that. And they kind of have this system and this network built. But they're also kind of coming in at that ground floor with a new technology. They might be a little bit more connected. And so, I would say we're probably very early stage. So, even before people are raising, Series A and onward, we're kind of that pre-seed early stage. And our hope is that they can launch at mHUB and grow at mHUB, but then eventually graduate and get their own office space and become a viable business.
So how big is the average company there?
Gosh, if you're talking about the early stage startup, they might have 2 to 5 full-time employees and a slew of interns. And then I think the really amazing thing about our community is that one of the huge benefits is that all these people are tapping into each other's expertise. So we have a lot of engineers, industrial designers, even marketing and other service providers that house at mHUB and then are, kind of offering their knowledge and expertise so the startups can tap into that without having to hire a full-time employee.
Yeah. So there's a number of employees that are mHUB employees, but their sole job is to go out there and fill, I won't say small holes, but holes in organizations there that they don't have need for a full-time person for.
Sure. Yeah. And they're not actually mHUB employees, but they are members of our community, and they pay for a membership to get the majority of their business from the mHUB ecosystem.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So how are the organizations in mHUB identifying whether or not they should utilize those resources, the people who are members of mHUB, for some of those more temporary needs versus going out and finding people for full-time employment with their organization?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of community building. So, and I'll add something onto this, right? Because I'm talking about kind of that startup, early stage, scrappy startup. There are ways that this talent pool is accessed by small, medium, even large scale manufacturers as well. But on the startup side, I mean, we're very community oriented. So, we actually have an active office space, believe it or not. People are coming here daily, and it's, I think, very vibrant because of our prototyping labs, and people are physically building things, and they physically need the tools and the resources that we have in this building. But then the result of that is this community, and we have this internal Slack channel and member events and happy hours and lunches, and people are networking and meeting each other, learning each other's skill sets, and then tapping into that. And I think what's interesting from, the manufacturer, the industry standpoint is they see that talent pool. And then we do have a formalized department that's run by mHUB that can help contract that out to companies, that offers this like really entrepreneurial outside in perspective to get into a think tank, brainstorm, try to fix a product or a process challenge that they've been stewing on internally, throw entrepreneurs at it, and like all of these new ideas blossom. And we love doing that. It's so exciting. And their teams love it too, because it's kind of supplementing their own internal resources and really breathing some life into it.
Yeah, I saw the community involvement. You just had your annual barbecue was it just last weekend?
Oh, it was 2 weeks ago. Today, 2 weeks ago.
That looked like a hell of an event. I mean, there had a lot of people there.
Yeah, it was wild. We had over 1,600 people register, and I think probably closer to 1,000 showed up, but it kind of like took on the feel of like a Chicago street festival. We have this giant parking lot, and so that's one of the annual events we do each year. And I think people really appreciate it because it's casual. There's no programming. It's atypical, and you just get to come and network and we had a beautiful day. It's always really, really fun.
I was wondering what the genesis of that, like what was the thought behind a couple of years ago saying, you know what we should do? Eat a bunch of food, drink a bunch of beer, play cornhole, and listen to music in our parking lot. That's going to be good for the members.
Well, you'll have to ask our CEO, Haven Allen, who I'm sure originated the idea. I think one of the pieces of that is the fact that we have a parking lot in downtown Chicago. Like, that is unusual. And so it's like, let's make use of this space and do something with it. It's a bit of a work hard, play hard community, and we like to have fun and get people together and around music and food and just, sharing ideas.
Yeah. So speaking of working hard, I wanted to talk about what are some of the biggest challenges that you see these scrappy startups facing when it comes to their team, when it comes to development?
Yeah. I mean, I think what a lot of startups face is kind of, and especially, you have your technical founders, right, who have the technical acumen, but not necessarily the business acumen. And then you have vice versa. I think both people can fall into the trap of like, if you build it, they will come, right? I have this awesome idea, and once I build it, it's going to be so good that I'm going to immediately have a customer base. And what we do is kind of slow down the actual like product development side of it and the prototyping it. Work on that, do your prototyping, but at the same time, really prove out your market and really prove out that you're meeting an unmet need and that someone's willing to pay for it and invest it. Otherwise, you're going to get down this track where developing a physical product is expensive, takes a lot of resources, It's very capital intensive. It's not like SaaS or software digital solutions. And so really kind of bringing that perspective to it, that it's not just about the product. You really have to have the business model. So I think that's a trap that you see startups fall into. And then on the talent side, I mean, usually they can't make their first hires until they've like raised some investment dollars, right? So they have people that are coming on, working super hard, taking equity and like believe in this so much, but they can't do their formal development marketing hires or even hire like full-time technical engineering talent until they, raise an initial round. And so, that's why the fundraising in that VC relationship can be so stressful, but so important.
Mm-hmm. When they do finally secure that funding and they do say, okay, we've got the funding, we believe there's a valid space for our product out there in the market, how do they differentiate themselves versus established companies that have departments dedicated to employment branding, to bringing on talent, and this is usually just a couple of people with an idea and a prototype? How do they find great talent to join their organization?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because of the verticals that I listed that we play in, right? Healthcare, climate, advanced manufacturing, a lot of this technology can really be tied to like a mission driven aspect, right? Like you are doing something to make people healthier or the planet more sustainable. And so people can grab onto that. I think like going through the university systems, usually these startups are building out like a board, right? A board of mentors and thought leaders and experts, and kind of tapping into that and using that to share opportunities and bring new talent to the fold is really important. And I mean, I think, you do have to find that entrepreneurial mindset. Not everybody was made for startup culture, and it kind of helps to find people that have maybe been at a startup before or ask really pointed interview questions to make sure it's a good fit.
Mm-hmm. What do you see as a trend in manufacturing as a whole coming down the road? What are some of the challenges you see, not just these small scrappy startups, but I'm sure you have a pretty good view on manufacturing as a whole. What do you see coming down the road and challenges that people might want to start bracing themselves for?
Yeah, I mean, like the challenges are opportunities, right? But there's like a lot of conversation and involvement that we have around supply chain, right? And really strengthening our regional supply chain. One of the unique ways that we can do that is by connecting our startups who are going to start scaling to local manufacturers. That's one way that we're making impact there. I think obviously you have the workforce issues and some skill gaps with the advancement of automation and digitization and AI coming into the picture, and a little bit of uncertainty around what skills do we even need. And then the fact that you have an entire generation of our largest workforce of boomers retiring, and Gen Z is not big enough to replace that. So there's a lot. But I also think it's a really unique opportunity for the U.S. when it comes to reshoring and building back our communities and our economies around a manufacturing-based strategy is personally really, really motivating for me, and I know a lot of people here.
It's a word you've heard a lot more the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic when all of the supply chain problems, the lead time to get stuff was wild. What trends have you seen the last year, 2-3 years when it does come to reshoring? Is that just a buzzword and a hope, or is it something that you've actually started to see come into play?
Yeah, it's interesting. You see it in policy, right? So there's been a lot of federal dollars, things like to take the Inflation Reduction Act, right? And almost like, a lot of pieces of that, there's some sort of supply chain workforce, a lot of focus on manufacturing built into that. So, we're seeing that when it comes to like funding opportunities. There always has to be a workforce development piece. And a lot of times it's connected back to these hubs, right? How do we create hubs around the country that are specializing in a particular area of technology, which then a lot of the technology right now will be manufacturing based, right? Like it's software supported, but there's physical hardware that is needed to achieve our goals. And so you're seeing it a lot in connected to policy and funding opportunities. And then, you're seeing it a lot pop up in conversations around this like green economy, right? And the clean tech and climate space. Local supply chains are more sustainable, more efficient. And, when you're talking about infrastructure and things around climate, that becomes a big piece of it as well.
Can you think of, are there any companies within mHUB that you think are doing a really good job of that? They're doing a really good job of bringing their piece back on shore and developing their workforce to continue to do it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't have as much insight into like the industry partners and the corporate strategy. So when it comes to early stages, it's almost like what the lens that we're dealing at is so early on that they're not, there might not even be manufacturing at this point. So it's not so much a conversation about reshoring, but we're trying to do things to point them to locate in the US, right? So there's like, I can think of a couple of companies that have graduated out of mHUB, like Ascent Integrated Tech. They are building a sensor tracking device that attaches onto currently firefighter helmets, but you could use it in a number of hazardous environments to track where your people are live during a disaster. And they recently closed a series of funding, opened offices right in the neighborhood. We happen to be in an opportunity zone. So there's a lot of incentives from when you're raising dollars from the investment community to be located in an opportunity zone. And they're so connected into the ecosystem that we've built to stay in Illinois and grow here and hopefully, manufacture here down the road. Azul 3D is someone that just raised a 15 million Series A in the last year, and they're doing 3D printing technology. They have a particular unit, and I can't speak exactly to the nuts and bolts of the technology and what makes it so fascinating and unique, but I know the people that know 3D printing are very excited about it. And they're up in Waukegan and doing some of their manufacturing locally. So it's things like that, even though they're early stage, where are they choosing to locate and open their first plants or choose their contract manufacturers?
Yeah, it seems like there's a really big challenge coming because not only are baby boomers aging out of the workforce population, the newer generations, we stopped making babies at that rate a long time ago, so there's not as many people coming into the workforce. Plus, there's so much incentive and reason to bring positions back into the United States. So there should be more positions, more jobs, more companies in the United States with less people. How do we remedy this situation? What do we do about it? There wouldn't be enough people even if we continued to send more jobs overseas.
Right. Yeah, I think the automation and AI is going to play into that heavily, but you're talking about that impacting kind of like the office worker, that white collar job, not so much the builders and the makers and the welders and the electricians and everybody that we need. That's part of that whole value chain of manufacturing. I think we're seeing a lot of community organizations, even universities that have traditionally been 4-year college educators and the community colleges, city colleges of Chicago, economic development agencies noticing this problem because their industry is coming to them and saying, this is a huge problem, and are starting to put resources behind reshaping what it means to have a career in manufacturing.
Okay.
And retelling that story, right? It's not this dirty factory floor where you're on your feet for 24 hours and, you're pushing buttons, but how it really can be a lucrative, stable career. It can be very interesting and, employ critical thinking and problem solving in a way that's engaging, especially when you're bringing kind of this high tech aspect to it. And, I just think the perception, hopefully, my hope is that, kind of on a national level is a culture that is more valued, and that it's a prideful, right? It's prideful to be contributing to the economic development engine of being a country that makes things again.
Yeah, and I see it starting. I mean, it makes sense that kids coming out of high school, it felt like for a long time they weren't given a choice. You either go get a 4-year degree or you're not successful, which is BS, is bullshit. And now they see that, okay, I can go spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get this degree, come out of school, and depending on the degree, your job prospects might not be that great. Or coming out of school, you can find an apprenticeship program, get paid well learning a skill, learning a trade for 2, 3, 4 years, and come out on the other side and make just as much money. I mean, you could go be a pipe fitter and make $140,000, $150,000 a year, a couple years down the road. It's like I was on vacation last week with whole family went up to Michigan, and the house we stayed at had a pinball machine in the garage, and we were playing an older pinball machine, and it got busted. Just balls got stuck. We're trying to bump the ball out, and all of a sudden it just kept racking up points and racking up points and racking up points. And one of the flippers didn't work already, one of those third flippers up top. And we found a local pinball repair guy.
Amazing.
And so he came out, he's out in the garage, he's fixing it, and all of the kids, 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, they're all standing around just in awe of what he's doing and the inside of this pinball machine, all of the wires, all of the switches, all of the gears, all of the lights. And they were enraptured for over an hour and a half watching this guy fix the pinball machine. And I asked my 8-year-old daughter, I'm like, so do you know what his job is? She said, well, he's pinball repair guy. I said, yeah, but this guy is an engineer. I mean, this is an electromechanical engineer. And he goes, yeah, an electromechanical engineer with 2 liberal arts degrees. And this guy has a degree in communications and political science. And he's like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. But I'm going to study this craft. And now he runs his own business, making good money, loving what he's doing. And it's amazing to me. He probably makes really good money. I know what he charged us. It wasn't cheap. And I think kids are seeing that choice, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like organizations like mHUB, even local governments, different chambers, and manufacturing organizations are starting to really promote this agenda and do a good job of it. What are some things that you see? Do you see it being more companies, more trade organizations? Who is the driving force behind putting this message out there?
That's great. And I love that example. So I know there's something building in Illinois, which won't launch into the fall. So I can't totally share, and I don't want to mess up the big reveal. I'm super excited about it. It's going to be like visible, and you'll notice it when you see it. But there's groups like the Illinois Innovation Network and the Illinois Manufacturers Association and the Illinois Manufacturing Excellence Center, the Illinois Department of Commerce, universities, city colleges that are all coming together to address the problem. And really, like you said, figuring out how do we get to young people early, right, before they're making that decision if they need a 4-year degree. And I think, kind of to echo echo what you're saying. It used to be like, if you don't get that, it's like your prospects are slim, and that's the only way to have a successful career is to go through this 4-year college. And if you don't, then you're not going to have opportunity. And I think that's changing, and that's wrong. And that maybe was always an incorrect perception that just kind of got ingrained into the culture. And so we're starting to peel that back, and everyone, like those organizations I just mentioned, are kind of coming together and figuring out, where do we meet young people where they are? How do we change the narrative? How do we make it cool? Right? Like, how does it look cool and sound cool? And because it is cool. And show them their options, show them this is the salary that you could be making. This is the type of work that you might be doing. This is what it would look like to get to that A to B, and have a really prosperous career. That's not the traditional path. And I'm really excited for that to launch, because it is going to be an actual concerted effort with funding and a lot of groups in the picture. That, hopefully we can get young people into these training programs through community colleges, and then move on through the career pipeline.
How much of the success in the future do you think is dependent upon bringing new people into the industry, and how much of it is continuing to train the current workforce, to develop the current workforce?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both. I think they're both probably equally important. Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about the upskilling and reskilling, that's a thing as well. And I don't have as much involvement in that side of it. I know it's happening, but we're playing a little bit more in the get pipeline into the careers in the first place.
Yeah, I'd imagine the size of the organizations that are relying on you, that are working with you, they're such tight organizations that there's not a lot of, well, I need to train you. You're doing this job. I need to train you on this job for the future. That seems to be more of a strategy for larger organizations. Am I correct?
Yeah. And I think that's one of, kind of take it back to our talent pool. I think that's one of the reasons why people might contract with us for R&D in the first place, because we're filling a gap that they might have in their current workforce. So, we have electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, computer scientists. Then we have the marketing people and the product development people and the industrial designers. And if you have a skill gap on your team, you can outsource that and still move your product development and process improvement forward, and maybe even uncover the skill set that you do need to hire for or train for, what's missing. So that's something when we're talking about those bigger companies, is one benefit of partnering with us.
Well, I want to combine two things that you talked about. You just talked about training and teaching skill sets that people don't have. And earlier you were talking about when these small startup type companies are looking to hire, you really got to search for people that have either worked with startups before or have that entrepreneurial spirit. And I'd imagine it's very rare for an organization that's working with mHUB to say, I have this exact need, and I'm going to find somebody that has done this exact need before. And I'd imagine if all they're focused on is the skill set that somebody has to join their organization, they're in for a very long and difficult ride to find that person. What do you see the best organizations in mHUB doing to find the right mindset coupled with enough skill set that they can train what the person doesn't have?
Sure. I mean, it's funny because I have seen that happen, right? Like I need someone with very specific CNC knowledge to make this part that I need for production. And we do have very specific skill sets that they need at a certain stage, and they tap into that and it's available. And that's what makes it amazing. But I think if you're talking about like the full term, long tail hire, there's a lot of learning that happens in our curriculum, right? So we have a lot of programming, we have a lot of experts come in classes, that's kind of teaching holistically what you need to know as a CEO, founder, business owner that's helping, right? It's helping them understand, how do I prioritize one hire over the other? What am I looking for? How do I interview people? And so all of those resources exist, right? You choose to take what classes you want based on your own gaps in knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I think when we're talking about startups, like there is a mindset, there is a entrepreneurial spirit, that you need to look for if you're hiring technical talent. There's obviously the laundry list of things that you need to make sure they can do, but more importantly, like, are they trainable? Are they motivated and excited by this work? Do they show deep curiosity in the product that's going to be developed? Because it's going to get hard. And, kind of what are those baseline characteristics on top of the technical stack of skills that you need?
So if you can share, what's next for mHUB? What's your organization's plan for the future?
Yeah, I mean, we're about to celebrate 1 year in our new location. Last October, we moved from one part of Chicago, not too far, to the near west side, and renovated an old manufacturing facility, and kind of was able to expand and be really intentional in the footprint and the equipment and the labs that we were putting in here. With that, we're just seeing like kind of a growth of the ecosystem broadly from like the industry standpoint and community partner standpoint. So we're really focused on digging in there, building coalitions and relationships around these critical areas of technology, and launching more venture activity. So, we had a lot of success with our first venture fund and our accelerator, and we just are in the middle of applications for our next MedTech accelerator, which will take 10 startups and put them through this really intensive program to hopefully by the end be more directed on a path to commercialization and get pilot opportunities with our industry partners, Baxter, GE Healthcare, and Endeavor Health, that are partnering on that program. So really, we're going to dig in and grow what we're doing, and, take the resources national, right? Because we're starting to attract talent from other parts of the country, because what we have here is so unique. And I can think of 12 states that people have relocated from to Chicago to access these resources, and just making sure that, people building hard tech solutions know that this is here, because what we hear is they don't see this in other cities across the country, and it's really unique resources for these manufacturing-based startups.
Are there other organizations similar to yours out there, and why isn't something like this more prevalent?
Yeah, I mean, you see it in the university systems, sure, right? So they have their facilities and they have their innovation hubs at the university campuses. There are some like maker spaces, right, that are popping up, and there's a group out of Boston that does something similar with devices. But I think it's of the moment, right? Like, I think we had this software craze where like innovation in technology was digital, and it was for a long time, and it really changed the world. And I think right now, because of climate and pandemic and healthcare and all of these things that are now kind of coming to this acute like pressure points, there's a lot of renewed interest in solutions that are physical product based. And so everyone's looking around being like, all right, well, what do we have for that? And mHUB got ahead of it. And we kind of saw that coming, and we saw the need for filling that gap on the manufacturing side. And we were at the right place at the right time to address that need. And we do have other cities that come to us and say, we want to build something similar. Like, can you pop up an mHUB here, or can you give us the playbook? And we entertain it, we talk about it, but we have to be really intentional. We're a nonprofit. We have to be intentional about what the long-term goals and strategies are. But I do see the brand and strategy and things growing a little bit more nationally as the whole country kind of reorients around manufacturing.
How much of your time as director of marketing and communications, how much of your time is divided between marketing and building the mHUB brand versus the companies that are relying upon mHUB and a part of mHUB, and how much of it is manufacturing industry as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of my role is for the organization itself. So supporting our core business units, the venture and accelerator, the R&D services, and then our incubator. And so we have a team that really does the marketing and comms on behalf of the organization, not so much the member companies within mHUB, but there's lots of opportunities for visibility, right? We create a lot of content. We do videos. We are really active on social. We have a great email marketing engine. And so we do give visibility to teams in that way, but it's not like we're acting as an agency on their behalf. We're just telling stories. Those are great stories. And then in terms of like larger ecosystem, I would say that takes up a significant amount of time, but probably at the, leadership strategic level of planning. And then it comes down to marketing for, that execution and the storytelling and events and whatnot. So very busy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
100% of my time for all of those things.
Yeah. Well, Kim, this has been fantastic. So who are the types of people or the types of organizations that should be interested in finding a place like mHUB or should be reaching out to you or somebody at mHUB?
Sure. Yeah. So, I guess I think I'll start with like the corporate industry side, right? Knowing your audience, if they're looking for ways to engage, to access talent or outsource talent, to just list off some of our current partners like Avnet, Panduit, Baxter, Milwaukee Tool, Omron, Marmon, and then the consulting firms like KPMG and the law firms like Kirkland. And so it really depends on what an organization is looking to do, but we love partnering with large scale industry, right? And really helping them form a strategic relationship with our community to push their own innovation pipeline goals, and just to, dig deeper on some of those areas like sustainability and advanced manufacturing. And then in terms of like the startup community, if you're building a physical product, this is the place to be, like no question. And on the community partner side, if you're care about economic development and inclusive economic development, we do non-dilutive funding for founders and for access, and really want to, kind of help build our impact on the South and West Side here in Chicago and replicate that elsewhere.
Well, Kim Blomquist, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Big thank you, as always, to Noah Cuff, our producer, Travis Miller. This has been Hired the Podcast. Talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Travis. Great to talk to you.
Thanks, Kim. You too.